Good morning, listeners, and welcome back to Let's Talk Politics Live. I'm your host, Dr. James Dula, our co host, Mr. John Bailey, and we welcome him back this week. And our special guest hosts are Miss Lisa Williams and Dr. Remy Duyale. So, welcome everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. So happy to have you here at this production brought to us by Wow Radio OG Media Productions, a great team of Crystal and Tara who do an outstanding job in producing our shows. And we regret that this is our last show for the year unless we do a holiday segment. But we only have approximately 2 weeks till election, the midterm elections. And so today we're going to be talking about some key topics. Uh, it's going to be a discussion period, and we'll hit on some key points that affect us locally. As we've always said, all politics is local. So with that being said, let me hit just a couple main points from our from the news this week. Well, we know that recently the House committee has been taking a look at January 6th, Mr. Bailey, and due to that point, it's resulted in a committee subpoenaing President Trump. And so the question is, will he show? Will he agree?
Right. Right. The
Also,
show continues.
yes, the show continues. Also, they tried to subpoena, or they did subpoena yeah, Bannon, who was his top advisor,
Right.
and and he denied their request. So it looks like he's going to be going to jail for a while.
Yes, we always see this, and it comes to this point, and but a lot of times we see them slither through and find a way out. Well, we hope that justice, prevails in this manner for for us because we've gone through so much. This has brought so much trauma uh, to America.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love the word that you use, slither through. I mean, that has a special point. But look, at the same time, but Bannon doesn't have to go to start his incarceration till after his appeal.
Right.
And President Trump was also brought up on other charges. Excuse me, former president was
Right.
number 45 was also brought up on charges from a lady that brought him up on charges quite previously about a possible rape charge as alleged per se. But it's been a turbulent weather news week in politics, and we're going to be following those topics closely because the key here is anyone above the law?
Right.
Is
Right.
anyone above the law? What would happen to you or I? And I'm a retired Air Force officer and former commander, and I worked in vaults where there was classified material, and we had to follow certain
Oh,
safeguards to put that
yeah.
classified information up, like and if anyone had left the door unlocked, or if anyone had left in the vault, which was sealed, a document sitting on a desk overnight, they would have been prosecuted
Absolutely. To the fullest. To the fullest.
to the fullest extent. So what never was there a thought, well, let me take this home and work on it at my house and I'll bring it back tomorrow because that Fort Leavenworth was right there. Right.
And that's just common sense. That's
Yeah,
just common sense, right?
yeah, yeah.
Without going through the protocols and standards of training that everyone has to go through. It's
Oh,
just common sense.
yeah. And so and when you have uh access to classified information, whether it's confidential, secret, top secret, or above, and there is an above, uh,
Right.
you do not take that responsibility lightly. I saw people in the Air Force receive punishment simply because they forgot to secure a document at night. And I saw that punishment. And when I see people who feel like they have the right to take numerous classified documents home, not realizing who may have access to their drawers or to their broom closet or whatever else, uh, then that seriously puts our country in jeopardy. And that's what I want everybody here listening to know. Regardless of what your political affiliation is, regardless of who you like or who you don't like, we all live in the United States of America. And in order to safeguard our country, our national interests, we must do, as Mr. Bailey said, follow certain guidelines. They're written guidelines. They're not just there for anybody to do as they please. And when you look at our adversaries today, and I worked at the highest level of Air Force intelligence during the Cold War, and we knew that there were certain ways that classified material was gathered. You don't want that information to get out, whether it's, as the news reported, China, Iran, or Russia, whomever. You don't want them to know how you collect information. So the point being this, just like in anything else, our nation has secrets. We need to maintain those secrets to maintain our national security. And if you love America, if you love this country, you will do all you can to ensure that safeguards are in place and that the people entrusted with those safeguards are following adequate procedures. And that's just the way it is. I love
Indeed.
America. America has not always loved me, but I raised my hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And so some things I didn't agree with. I was involved in the civil rights movement, did it for a reason. Civil rights, constitutional rights. That was my right as a U.S. citizen. However, I did not raise my hand to abuse the powers appointed over me, nor the
Right.
rule of law. And that's what
Right.
we're talking about. What is the rule of law? Are there people that's above the law? Hmm.
Right. Right. And a lot of them are challenging our intelligence.
Our, our intelligence collection ability, the trust that other nations have in the United States of America as a world leader, those things all come into play because you and I are good friends, Mr. Bailey. But if
Yes,
I
sir.
tell you a secret and I can't trust you to keep it, then what's going to happen?
That's a problem.
That's a
That's
problem.
a big issue.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So those people that would like to change our constitution, the ones that would like to uh, affect our elections by storming the Capitol, those that don't like the way we're doing business, I only have one thing to say to them, and that is this: violence is not the way. Dissension is not the way, because we see a rising tide of dissension today, a rising tide of dissension. But if you love America enough to see it move forward and remain the power it is, then violence is not the way. Voting is the way.
Right.
And so that's what Will said, that voting is the key to America's success. And with that being said, I would just leave this point. If you love the country, vote. If you love the political process, vote. If you love the fact that we live in a democracy that is the oldest constitutional democracy on the face of the earth today, then please vote. That's how we change our government, not by violence.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So, with that being said, I know that we're moving toward break. We're going to get into some other discussions, and one of our producers, Miss Chris, at uh, at, uh, at Wow Radio and uh, the production company, brought up a good point earlier. What do
Yes,
you do
she
if
did.
the candidate you like is not running? Do you sit at home?
Mm,
Oh, well, we get what we get, or do you see it as your civic duty to vote for the best candidates that's going to look after your general welfare? And I think that's a good point to start out with when we come back, because as we said, all politics is local. Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Study.
Don't vote, you get what you get. If you don't vote, don't complain.
Exactly.
Isn't that what President Obama said? Said, don't complain, vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, I think we're about ready to go to commercial. So we'll
Yes,
stop
sir.
at this point, and we'll turn it over to our producers as we go to OG Media and Wow Radio to take us to the commercial. Be right back.
Absolutely. See you after these.
OG Media Productions is a visual production company focused on making its clients' visions visible. They provide graphic design, photography, video production, and live streaming. These days, they are looking to work with clients that have vision for their project. Let OG Media take your vision to your audience. Visit their website at www.ogmediaproductions.com and follow them on IG at Team OGMP. They're passionate about putting their skills and innovation to work for you.
Wow Radio, keeping a firm grip on the community. We handle today's issues for tomorrow's successes. Wow Radio. I was deep into the minds of a king, man who once was in love. Should I hide behind me?
And we're back. I hope our listeners enjoyed the last segment as we put a few questions on the table concerning is anyone above the law, and if so, how do we handle America going forward uh, without being violent, but considering the vote as a powerful way of changing things. Okay, but
Yes.
we had a introduction last segment to the next question we have, uh, and that is if a candidate you like is not running for a political office and you don't really care for those that are, what do you do? Do you sit home and not vote, or how do you handle such a situation? So when a candidate that you like is not on the ballot, then what? Uh, and that calls for a lot of speculation. But I have my own opinion. Mr. Bailey, I'm going to let you start this one off. I'll chime in.
Well, yeah, this is actually a question that keeps a lot of our voters home, and they avoid going out and just avoid it altogether. What I say is you have to study, you have to educate yourself. Okay, we have the internet now. You can go on the internet. We can go to their different websites. We can go to their debates. We can go out in the community and approach the candidates and actually study and see what their policies are. What is your agenda for getting into office? What do you plan to do? What is on your mind? What have you actually done in the past? What is your track record? And these are the things that we have to actually study and educate ourselves as well as those that are around us. Because a lot of us are confused. And a lot of confusion comes from miseducation or lack of education. And I believe if you do your due diligence and study, and no matter if you like them or not, just study and see what they're about, see what they've done over the past few years. Why are they running for office?
Good
And
point.
then that will help you make a better educated uh, uh, decision on who to vote for and what you believe in. Are they speaking your language? Are they doing things? Have they been doing things that fall into your category of your life pattern? And what do you want for your family and your children and your grandchildren? What's going to happen in the future? Because what they do, what they say, the policies they approve and put forth are going to stick around for a while, and we'll have to live with them. So it's education is key in this effort of voting, I believe.
And I think you're absolutely right. That reminds me of what President Kennedy said, that's not what your country can do for you, but that's what you can do for your country. And one of the things you can do is vote. And that brings us up I have an opportunity to introduce our guest, Miss Lisa Williams. I'd like to hear what she has to say on this point. She is a political uh, person that likes to discuss politics with us. So welcome aboard there, Miss Williams.
Yes, welcome, welcome.
Thank you both. I'm going to correct you, Dr. Dula. I am a
Uh-oh.
political junkie.
Well,
And
was
I'm okay with
along those
that.
lines. I chose my words carefully. She's been
But
on
you
the show
both,
before, and we've had some very good discussions. And like
Absolutely.
what we're talking about right now is if the person you would like to see on the ballot is not there, but two other people may be, then what do you do?
you all have brought up some very valid points. Research is important. You also have to consider who the other candidate is that's running. Does that person represent your interests or do they not? Um, as an example, we all knew what 45 was before he got elected.
Mhm.
Um, but people would not vote for Hillary because her emails. I mean, we had numerous examples of what 45 was going to do with the Supreme Court. He has subsequently stacked it with the religious rights who want to take away and actually have started to take away women's rights. So it comes down to, um, like Barack Obama said, you can't really complain if you don't vote, or if you vote for someone who does not have your best interests and the best interests of the country or the state or your district or your, you know, council
Mhm. Mhm.
in mind. And so what we have now is we have folks are, registering to vote in huge numbers. We're seeing in Georgia, we've got Stacey Abrams running against Kemp.
Oh yes.
But the young people are out there. They're getting out there. They're voting. They understand what's at risk. But unfortunately, some of the Republican women, 53%, voted for 45, even knowing that he intended to stack the courts in such a way that it would impact not only women's rights, but voting rights, um, possibly even interracial marriage. Um, so there's a whole lot of things that folks need to consider. And when someone tells you who they are, believe them
Mhm.
and vote in a manner that represents not only you, but the collective.
That you're absolutely right. And when the obvious is standing in front of you, then 9 times out of 10, your gut feeling is to trust it. That reminds me of a quote that said, "Democracy is based upon the conviction there are extraordinary possibilities in ordinary people." So let me say that again. Democracy is based upon the conviction there are extraordinary possibilities in ordinary people. So what I'm saying is that your person may not be on the ballot, but sometimes we have to, well, choose between the best of less evils. Not saying that people are evil, but you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying here. And that if we're going to maintain our democracy, then it's up to the voters to at least do what Mr. Bailey said. Take a look at the records. Take a look who has really done something for the people. Make sure you know, as my father used to say, vote. You're voting your knowledge. Make sure you know who you're voting for, and then make your choice. We don't always get the choices we want in life, and so if you don't get the choice that you want, maybe they didn't win the primary election for your political division, but at the same time you have somebody that did. So try to study, open your mind, take a look at what they stand for, and then choose the best candidate. I agree with Miss Williams absolutely right. We have got to make sure that we stand up for something. I mean, because what's going to happen? Just like the women that voted for 45, now they're complaining against the decisions that the court made based on the fact that the courts are not agreeing with what they thought they should agree with. For example, Roe versus Wade, and Roe versus Wade was really struck down in a way, but what it did was give the rights back to the states. And when you give the rights back to the states, they're the ones that's empowered with making the decisions concerning abortion and vice and anything else. So when we stop and take a look at it across the board, all politics is local. So if you don't vote for your local council person, your local mayor, your local county executive, though your governor, which is coming up, we'll talk about that next segment.
Oh yeah.
Then you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot because you have no voice because you didn't vote. So find somebody, be a part of the election system, be a part of democracy, and vote for the best person as you see him. Is that what you were saying, Mr. Bailey?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And there are several groups out here that get together regularly that speak politics, that educate themselves, that bring the politicians out or the candidates out and have candidate forums. Get yourself involved. Come out of the house. Uh, we're able to intermingle a little more. Educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Get involved, and that's the key. You have to either get involved or you'll see the results after November 8th, and don't try to figure things out then. It's too late.
And it's very interesting. These are midterm elections. Miss Williams, I know for a fact that the news media right now is covering uh, uh, this election very closely.
Mhm.
And what they're concerned with is how do you think women will vote? I heard that this morning when it comes to changing the House and the Senate based on what has happened over the last couple of years.
Um, well, I'm hopeful that they will keep in mind. I mean, we've heard stories. I don't know if you all. I go down this TikTok rabbit hole where I see all these situations where women are
Uh oh, I think our guest froze. Well, I'm interested in hearing that because I don't do TikTok and
Right.
and the news media right now is saying how will women vote based on the fact that their voice was not heard. Okay, she's back.
They were back. They were
Yes,
back.
I had a moment with Comcast, but there are real life examples of women who are experiencing the consequences of either voting for 45 or a Republican or not voting at all, whereby they're having pregnancies where they need medical intervention and they cannot get it. They have to travel hours to other states or make calls to other states to find out where they can go to get these situations taken care of for their lives. So I'm hopeful that women are paying attention and are going to the polls and voting in their best interest and in the best interests of other women and their daughters and their mothers and their aunts and cousins.
Okay, and you're a military veteran, so and I'll give a shout out to belated birthday to the United States Navy, uh,
Thank you.
and also a belated birthday. No, wait a minute, an early birthday to the United States Marines who will celebrate their birthday on November the 10th.
Hmm.
And we'll see many Marines at an event coming up. But the point is this: the military has decided that if a abortion is requested by an active duty member, then the military will pay for that member to go to a state to get the abortion that they need because they see it as part of being mission ready. In the military,
Mm.
mission comes first. It doesn't depend on which branch of service you're in. The mission comes first. So they see mission capability being based on the fact that airman, soldier, marine, whomever may need that for mission purposes. But at the same time, they will pay for them to leave that jurisdiction where they're at to go and get an abortion. So I
That's
thought that was
interesting.
very interesting. I haven't read up a lot on it, but I did hear it on the news this past week.
I think the VA is now covering them as well. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I thought that was really important for women who have served their country to be able to have access to women's health care.
Okay. With that being said, we're ready for another break. So to our listeners, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, this is Ty Flood, founder of the Awesome Women of Empowerment Group, also known as the AW Group. And the AW Group is a mental health organization and support group geared towards providing various resources, wellness programs, and encouragement to women and families who are living with a mental health condition. Connect with us by visiting theawgroup.org or follow us on Instagram or Facebook under @theawgroup. That's THEAWE Group.
Did you know that BWCC is now streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio? Yep, that's right. Go to any of these platforms and search Black Women Connecting Communities. That's Black Women Connecting, CONNEXTING communities. Follow us and add us to your list of favorite podcasts.
I'm your host for today. Our co-host is Mr. John Bailey, and our guest host today is Ms. Lisa Williams. We are talking about countdown to elections, and in doing so, we have taken a look at what has transpired in our nation this past week. We've also talked about all politics being local, and used an underlying theme of the rising tide of dissension. And what I mean by dissension is those who are opposing our election process as it has been determined by the Constitution of the United States. Many people do not know that our process does include campaigning. It also includes fact finding by the voters, as Mr. Bailey alluded to. It also includes a primary election where we elect those that are going to run in the general election. And on November the 8th, we will be having our general election. It's very important that we all come together and we make the right choice. Now, who is running? You have one candidate that has been supported by former President Donald Trump on one side, and then on the other side, you have a United States military veteran who has done great things in this country and great things in his career, who is also running on the other ticket. Now, we talked earlier. You may not like either choice, but the direction America is going in, you want to make sure that you study wisely, study in depth their background, know what they stand for, and then choose wisely, because it's not just your future; it's the future of your children and your grandchildren. So this segment, we're going to go into something a little bit different. Remember, all politics is local, but during the election coming up, which is the general election for 2022, a lot is at stake. But let's take a look at the governor's race for the state of Maryland. If we choose wisely, then we will be embarking on a new course that will include all the people. In my opinion, if we don't choose so wisely, we will be bringing what we have seen from the tenure of President Trump to the state of Maryland. There are people who will vote on both sides. Vote your wisdom. But at the same time, how do we get the different generations to see the value in this and vote? I'm a civil rights generation. That's the only way I can put it, a baby boomer. Okay. My father was in World War II, fought in the Pacific, black man, went from island to island, providing beans and bullets, avoiding Japanese patrol boats to make sure that the troops had what they needed. And I value that because that's part of our heritage. That's our democracy. That's what kept us free. Now, realizing that we have had a turbulent history because we've had wars, World War One, World War Two, the Korean War, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Iraqi freedom, all these things have happened. People have put their lives on the line for this nation. How do we make sure that each generation understands that their obligation is to vote? You don't have to teach it to me. it was taught to me by the World War II generation, the greatest Americans. And now we have, I guess, a generation, and I think Generation X got it from the baby boomers because we were really big on that coming out of the civil rights movement and that era.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
now we have what is Y and Z,
Yeah.
okay, and they're eligible to vote.
Yes.
So how do we get the information, the word to them that their vote matters? I'm opening it up for discussion.
Well, I think we touched a little bit on this during our last podcast. Um, it's incumbent upon us to do everything that we can to educate the next generations. I've certainly done that with my children. I do that a lot on social media. I know you know that already, Dr. Dula. I'm putting information out there for folks so that they understand the importance of it. Also, I think something that we're not seeing enough of now is civics class. Isn't that like gone to the wayside?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so the young people don't really understand the importance of voting, what the impacts are. So it's incumbent upon us to use whatever tools that we have available to us to get them out there and activated.
Yeah, when I retired from the military, I taught social studies, which included African American studies and civic classes, or government, as people call it, at the high school level. I really enjoyed it because I would teach my students not only will you learn it in the classroom, I want you to go home and tell your parents. Because in too many situations, students would tell me, I'm not going to vote when I'm 18 because my mother didn't vote, or my father didn't vote, or my household doesn't believe in voting. And I would look at them, I said, in that case, I guess you don't have a right to complain, right?
Mm.
Sometimes you got to put that question before them. Are you happy with your life? Are you happy with what you see in your county? Are you happy with what you see in your state? Are you happy with the laws that affect you? Uh, these are things that matter. And so we need to put the same emphasis on the vote matters that we put on Black Lives Matter, Civil Rights Matters, and all the other things that matter in this country. And so my question is really, how do we make them see that need? Because I know that, what is it, Generation Z we're talking about now?
Yep.
All the uh, psychologists and people, commentators on TV talk about they see life different than we did, that they're more challenging, and they want to wear pajamas to work versus a suit and tie. You know, so,
Yeah.
so how do we? My generation would say, well, you need to wear a suit and tie to a interview, and you have to do these types of things because it is the norm in our society. But
Right.
if someone looks at you, Mr. Bailey, and says, but I don't want to wear a tie. I would rather go in a open collar polo shirt and hush puppy shoes. How do you make them understand that image matters as well as your vote matters? How do you do that? It's a psychological game.
It is. It is. And I believe they are so far removed from what our thought processes are that they are in the attempt of recreating America in their own way. Um, they are starting to do things a lot different. They are doing everything that we know about differently. They have the internet. They were born into the internet. The access to information is so wide and quick. They are not interested in working hard. I appreciate them working smart, and they are making what seems to be a lot more money in this generation. They have more opportunities, but we have to continue to be leaders, right? We have to continue to do what we're supposed to do, what we know we need to do, because they still need that leadership. They're still in the dark. They're figuring things out. But what we know and what we know to do is repetition. And we have to continue to do what we know we're supposed to do. Go out and vote, study the candidates, take them with us. I agree with both of you. We have to get everybody involved. Get your household involved. Get your neighborhood, your block involved. Go to the high schools, get them involved, the junior high school, so we can start to educate them and get them used to it. The only way we learn things, the best way to learn things is through repetition. And if they continuously see us doing these things, they will do those things
Mhm.
because they'll see the results. It's all about that. They want to get to the results quicker than what we have done ever in life. And if we continuously show them that this is the way to do it and get the results, then I believe they will follow us. I do this with my children. We go through the study process of the candidates and we vote together. We fill out the ballots at home, and then we go to the polls and we separate. But we already know where we are. We've educated ourselves, so we're not going into this blindly. And that's a scary thing to go into the polling place blind.
Mm.
Who are the judges? What does this candidate do? I know their name, but if we educate ourselves, we'll not only know just their name, their face, but what they're about. And I believe that we have to engage in our younger generations and let them start to take the lead. Let them walk beside us,
Okay.
so they can show the other peers how to do this. And they thrive off of that. I believe once we get their interest in that manner, they'll thrive off of it and continue to do it.
In
So
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, if I can use my own family as an example,
Sure.
it's, sometimes you have to grab them by the collar and shake them. I mean,
Yeah,
like I've
indeed.
I've brought my daughters up to vote. I've taught them how to be engaged in political campaigns, how to do the research. And
Right.
so while I've got one daughter who is here in Maryland, she's doing, what she needs to do. I've got a daughter in Georgia who is now married and has two children. Georgia, we're talking Warnock,
Right. Right.
Walker,
Right.
um, and she's not voting. So, and her husband isn't either. So like 2 weeks ago, I asked her, well, are you guys voting? Do you understand what's happening in your state? She had no idea, and she's not voting. And so I just basically was like, you need to get on top of this because this affects your daily life. This affects funding, you know, any programs that you and your family are on down there. You need to be engaged and involved in voting. Otherwise, you're going to just get what you get.
Hmm.
So, I'm not afraid of having those hard conversations with friends, family, whomever. But this is what we need to do in order to get people engaged.
Please have your daughter call me. My number is 555. No, we only have about a minute to go, but on this segment, then we're going to bring in Dr. Remy Dule. But we had a discussion early in our broadcast. Oh, I guess it was about probably in March, where we talked about consensus versus compromise. And when I stop and think about the Generation Z, I think about, can we still reach a consensus, or due to the change in mentality, is reaching a consensus, making them see by leading by example, as you said, Mr. Bailey. Can we make them see the right way to do it is the way we did it, or which would be a consensus where everybody wins, or do we change our mindset and say maybe with the Z guys we need to consider compromise. If
Yeah.
you vote here, here's what the solution will be. Just addressing it from a different way. So maybe if we could show them the consequences of their action per se, and
Hmm.
how it will affect the laws and the local things we see here in our jurisdiction, maybe we can reach a consensus by starting with compromise. Hey, let's compromise on this. Can we agree with that? maybe we can reach consensus. It's time for break. Dr. Rima Duyale is standing by. When we come back, we will continue with consensus versus compromise. And let's take a look at some of the laws that may be affected right here in the hometown where we're at, okay? In your neck of the woods, as Al Roker would say. All right, it's
Right.
break time. We'll be right back.
Absolutely.
Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. It's Wild Radio, so you know you gon' hear it. Whether you like to spit it or you just wanna feel it. Forever indie, baby, and you know we got the spirit. Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. Indie media for the indie spirit on Wild Radio.
Well, I hope we're back. I think we are back now. And just as a recap, this is our last show before the elections, and maybe the last show for the year. Depends on, we may do a holiday show, but we'll keep you advised concerning that. Today, we've talked about the need to vote. We have talked about there are good people in this democracy, but you have to vote to make sure that they gain the office that they're running for. And the choice is yours. It's up to you to choose. But at the same time, how do we make sure we get the message across to our new voters that their vote does matter? Because the laws that take place after the election will rest on their shoulders, because it will have been their choice. Majority rules in this country, so it will be their choice concerning who will lead us forward. And the Maryland governor's race is very important, because you can pick one or the other that will change the course of direction for Maryland for the next, at least the next 8 years. So let's stop right now with that. And I see we are joined now by Dr. Remy Duyale. Good morning, Miss Duyale. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Good
Welcome,
morning, everyone. Good
welcome,
morning. Thanks for
welcome.
Good
having me.
morning.
We seriously, because we know that you have raised your children, and we know that you're politically involved, very active, and we talked the last segment about how do we make sure that we get the word to the generation Y and X that their vote matters, that they need to vote. How did you do it with your children?
Thank you so much, Dr. Dula, Mr. Billy, and the co-host for having me on. Of course, it's a village concept, and I've listened to all of you. I was behind the stage hearing what Mr. Billy said, Dr. Dula, what you said about that consistency, not leaving that leadership role. And I do teach, so I'm privileged to also be before so many bright and young leaders who are freshmen in college, who are still in that nurturing stage. And one thing that I constantly do and that I do at home is getting the message out there. And I think my sister said it all, having that conversation, but not making it that it's going to be our way or by way. Give them that audience. Let them know that you care. Explain to them why they have to vote. In my children's case, they didn't really have too much of a choice because they were in a home with a mother who was civically engaged. Even before I ran, I was always engaged. And Dr. Dula, you've mentored me through this process, but letting them know what it means. And they do listen. They listen at their own terms and at their own convenience. That's where the caution comes with patience as adults. These young leaders, they want to go faster. And I think Mr. Billy alluded to that. They want to go, they're walking smart. They're not into all of this heavy lifting, which is okay. And they do get it right most of the times, but we cannot leave that leadership role. And what I did with mine is just what we're doing now, having that conversation, seeing what it translates, where it vote, and sharing examples of people who have lost by a few margin of votes. It's easier for me now because a lot of the young people who came out during my race, and when I didn't win the race this time, they were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you didn't." I'm like, "Did you vote number one? Did you get as involved as you needed? Oh, we could have done better. This is what we could have done," and so on and so forth. The closer people see that the real people that they can feel and touch are part of this process, the easier for them. And the young leaders, they want to change. They want the world to be a better place. But we've got to meet them halfway. I don't know that we compromised. I wouldn't compromise anything. I would constantly have that consensus, meet them halfway, let them understand why. For instance, the state of Maryland, 18 days countdown, leave no one behind. What would you choose? I mean, clearly speaking, you don't want to be left behind. If we bring a Trumpism era back, I'm sorry, that is a setback we do not need at this point in our life. When we have a choice to do and make, we've got to do it. I know we're not here to pitch one candidate versus the other, but the young leaders have to do their research. They have to do their homework. And as parents, we've got to be bold enough to explain to them why and what we're doing matters. Every decision that's made, they have to live with. And I hear my sister about her daughter, the decisions that are made when you don't participate, you have to live with it. And when you start bringing it home to their wallet, to their family, to what matters to them, they begin to say, "Oh, really?" Because sometimes we'll think, "Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just my vote." Hey, 30 votes have made somebody lose or win. I'm sure they could have found 30 people, and so on and so forth. So that's why I do keep talking. Dr. Dula, I like to talk. I like to engage. And I do civic engagement. Legacy Premier Foundation. We pride in that. Because if people don't know, they can do better. I learned a lot from you, and that's how I'm able to be a better civic leader in the community. So they need such people in their lives.
Well, I think those are very good comments, and you said something that was very important. You and I have consistently talked about politics over the years. Today we're joined by the political junkie, Miss Williams, my, my community activist, Mr. Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
We are people, and right here we've got probably two generations. I'm baby boomer, and I would venture to say that some of you on here are Generation X.
Yep.
And so what we're doing now is saying, okay, let's come together as from a generational perspective and influence the generation Y and Z, because the future is now in their hands, and their vote will help determine how we move forward for the next 20 years.
Yep.
They need to know that, because their vote is going to affect our kids. It's going to affect the education system. It's going to affect public safety. It's going to affect everything that we hold value in our society. And so that's why I brought up the issue of, do we compromise or do we reach a consensus? And so the key is we want to reach a consensus to where they understand that their vote does matter. Don't think you can sit home like your parent did. Break that mold, throw it away, be different. That's what made America great. Individuals expressing their individual will. That's what made us great as a nation. And if we're going to continue to be great as a nation, we need that individualism. We need them to say, okay, mom and dad, I understand you didn't vote. But at the same time, I'm an individual. I care where my country is going. I care where my county is going. I care where my community is going. And I'm going to vote because I don't like what I see. I don't like when they create zoning issues that affect where I live. And I didn't vote. I don't like the way they want to change my street or change my school district or gerrymander my voting district. I want to have a say so in who's going to make those decisions. And if you don't like it to a certain extent, shut up. Go run for office. Go run for office. Run for the school board.
There we go.
Yep.
Run for the school board. Run for the county council. Run for county executive. Run for governor. Run for a position. to make a difference where you live, work, and raise your family. And
Mm.
that's what we mean when we say, how do we influence the next generation and make them understand that their vote, their direction will determine the state of our society for the next 20 years. And jump in if we've got a few more minutes to commercial, and then we'll come back for the last segment. Oh, they did tell me that that this segment is going so good, we're going to have another segment on November the 5th because
Oh,
it's not through.
Yay!
Yeah,
Yes,
and everybody has
indeed.
to come back. So we're going to do another thing on November the 5th
awesome.
because we have a lot at stake here.
Yeah.
You know,
We
We
do.
really do.
my way of life is not the same way of life. I don't perceive it the same way of life as somebody who
Mhm.
wants to attack our government and attack our way of life. So jump in here. I mean, I can talk for. I'm like Dr. Dugale said. I like to talk, but I like to talk with purpose.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
Right.
know if I can jump in or if
Yes,
Yes.
right. I
Sure.
mean, listening to all of you, I've been behind the stage hearing everything you have said. Unless I know you can be one side or the other, but we've just to speak true to the power. We're in an era that we need that true change, that everyone is carried along. So having something that will interrupt that flow would not be healthy for any of us. So our young leaders, especially who might have not voted or who are just tired and sick of hearing the same thing and nothing changing, we are begging them. They need to come and they need to vote because their vote matters. And you, young leaders, I'm speaking to them now, you matter. And we know that you are the now and the future. And the way to design a bright future is to be part of a process where you choose a leader who cares, who will bring every one of us together collectively. Clearly, we have two choices in the gubernatorial and all of the other things. But for right now, our state needs to come back to what it is, democratic state. And what that means is that your vote and my vote matters. So mothers, fathers, uncles, aunties, let's go. Let's have a voting party. Let's take these young leaders, maybe go take them to McDonald's. That's what I'm going to do when I'm done with the voting. Take them somewhere simple. Have a conversation before and after. If we don't do it, we're not going to get it right. And we cannot leave any opportunities unturned. Honestly, this is a must do and a must win for the Democratic ticket. And I rest my
And
case.
and as I mentioned in
Okay.
our last podcast, there was a delegate race, and I think it was District 23, where it came down to 16 votes between a person that made the cut and a person that didn't.
mm,
So please know that your vote matters. Do the research. Talk with us. Pay attention to what's happening in the world. Connect the dots.
mm.
Get out there and vote.
So I guess what you're saying is all politics affects where you live.
Absolutely.
Listen, some people may not
Without a
understand
doubt.
local. So let's say all politics affects where you live. It affects your food prices.
Mhm.
It affects your energy price, the price you're going to pay. It affects the water price, utilities, you name it. All politics affects where you live. And we need to understand that, but especially in our democracy, and Dr. Dugale brought up, we need to make sure that Maryland is a democratic state. Let me explain what that means. In America, we live in a republic, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Many people say that all their lives and don't understand what a republic is.
Mhm.
In a democracy where we have free will, okay, but we're subject to the rule of law, we live also in a republic. A republic means that in order to uh, for our country to survive in its democracy, where there's free will, we elect our representatives
Mhm.
to oversee our general welfare. So a republic, you choose your elected representatives. That's not a democracy. Okay? I mean, not a dictatorship. It's a democracy.
Mhm.
So to the republic, oh, that means that I have to vote to choose my representatives. That's all it means. So understanding that that is part of the Constitution of the United States, whereas we are a republic and the existence of our country is dependent upon those that we put into office, then we should clearly understand that my vote does matter. And it all comes back to uh, ask not what your country can do for you. Just get up off the sofa and do something, but make sure you vote.
Get
And that's what it
involved.
comes down to. And if
And
we,
it
there it goes.
if I can
Bam.
if I can interject for just a second,
You
it
got it.
doesn't just affect us in the United States. As an example, the Mississippi River is drying up.
Yes, it is.
That is a transportation venue, that we transport food, products, et cetera, et cetera. And we all know that we have one party who is climate change denying, and we're talking about inflation going up. It's a lot of different factors, but again, this is another example where it doesn't just affect the United States. It doesn't just affect us individually. It affects us around the globe. So just connect the dots, do the research, get out and vote.
And it goes back to what we said earlier. Know who you're voting for. Know what they stand for. Because if I'm getting kickbacks from the fossil fuel company, I don't want to see this clean energy. Maybe those are issues we have to know. The Mississippi is drying up. People are walking across it at some points almost,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
and so, but on one side there is that side that says, but at the same time, I don't believe in climate and change, but I see tornadoes in places there were not tornadoes. I see heat waves in places there were not heat waves. I'm seeing fires destroy millions and millions and millions of acres, but I don't believe in climate change. So now the Mississippi is drying up. Oh well, that's just the way it goes. I still want my fossil fuels. I'm not for clean
Mm-hmm.
energy, and I'm going to run on that point. And I'm going to run on the point that gas. Now, here's another thing: people have to think through this. Gas is going up. So if I don't want you in office, what I'm going to say? Oh, look at the price of gas. It's his fault. but but yet you oppose introducing laws and things of that nature that's going to really enhance our opportunity to have cleaner energy. So I'm not going to say which side of the party table I'm sitting on, but hey, look, but I do have common sense. So I'm gonna ask the voters, have common sense. If you don't like what you're seeing in your neighborhood, then think it through before you go to the polls. Ask not what your country can do for you, but take a look at yourself and vote wisely. And I know that we're down to final comments now, so I'm going to hush and give each one of you 2 minutes to have your final say. But I do want to put in a plug for our producers, Wow Radio, OG Media Productions. They do a great job. I want to applaud them for their efforts because without them, we could not do this. So, okay, now I took up one of your minutes, so I'm going to give each one of you a minute to make final comments. We'll start with Dr. Dula.
Thank you all for having me. And please get out and vote. Your vote is your power, and it matters because you do. Thank you.
Ms. Williams.
I'm going to echo what Miss Remy said. Your vote matters. I've made the point a couple of times that sometimes these elections come down to a handful of votes. Do the research. Do the research. If someone tells you who they are, believe them, and get out and vote.
Co-host Mr. Bailey.
Yes, sir. I apologize. Some things going on here at this event. Yes, we have to get out and vote. Educate yourself, educate your community, your household, your family. Get involved. If you don't understand, research and understand what's going on. Get involved so you can make your voice count at the polls. Please get out and vote, and I'll see you out there.
Awesome.
And I'll just end by saying a no vote is a yes vote for somebody. And with that being said, once again, I want to thank our guests, Dr. Dula, Ms. Williams, our co-host, Mr. Bailey, our producers, Ms. Tara, Ms. Kim, Ms. Tara, and Crystal of OG, Wow, and Productions and the whole 9 yards. There's their information on the screen. Write it down. Contact them. They do a great job in so many ways: photography, media
Absolutely.
production, voiceovers, all that kind of stuff. So make sure that you contact them. They're an excellent team, and we hope to see you right back here on November 5th at 11 o'clock. So thanks everybody, and have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you all. God bless.
Blessings.